Hello, Los Angeles. Hi, Dana. This is Elian Carsona. We are now in Versailles, about 20 minutes west of Paris, in what is one of the least ethnically diverse cities in the region of Paris.
New York, by comparison, is an incredibly diverse city. Those are the faces of New York. What about the names of New York? Namzor is a software that extracts valuable information from names. For example, gender seems easy to extract from names. Elena Rossini is definitely a female name, but Andrea Rossini would be a male name, and Andrea Parker is more likely to be a female name. To recognize accurately the gender in names, you have also to recognize the cultural background, linguistic background, ethnicity of names to infer accurately the likely gender. One application is to recognize whether names are, say, Irish or French or Indonesian in a network like Twitter, and then map all these geotag tweets to produce this map of the digital diasporas, the Irish, the French, the Indonesian on Twitter. Where are they? Who are they? What are they doing? Now, Twitter has incredible biases, of course, in terms of who's using it, where. But still, it's quite interesting to produce map of flows also. Who travels where? Who tweeted in the US and then in Brazil or Mexico? Who tweeted in the UK and later tweeted in France having a British name? Or who tweeted in the UK and later tweeted in France having a French name? A more complex application is to look at names in this incredibly diverse country, India, 1.2 billion people. Every state has a different language, a different script, and names are incredibly complex, not just based on geographies, but also based on the social system and religious system. What you can see in this picture is different kind of names that can be recognized at the state level. So you can distinguish names from Rajasthan, from names from Kerala, or from names like Meghalaya, for example. Even within one state, one district of one state, for example, Karbi Anlong, you can recognize different groups, and male people in this group, for example, are more likely to marry with female people in this group than with female people in this group, for example. So this is a project that was done with the French CNRS to analyze intercaste marriages and those patterns. One application, when you look at flows of people, is also to recognize that, for example, the Indian diaspora is likely to travel to India, not just at the country level, but also at the state level. What it means is people from the diaspora of Andhra Pradesh are more likely to travel also to Andhra Pradesh. This is true about traveling, but it's also true about investment. So when we think about the potential of diaspora for economic development and scientific development, it means engaging the diaspora is more efficient when it is done at a finer grain level than just the country. We mentioned that recognizing gender is not so easy as it seems. Karen, for example, is usually a female name, but in Armenian, Karen is a male name. So determining accurately the gender can be useful to monitor progress in terms of gender equality. And this is an example of analyzing a database like Thomson Reuters and ORCID, but also at recognizing the specific issues or the specific potential of women in diasporas, again for economic development or scientific development or social progress. Diasporas in science are a fascinating topic to look at. This is a research that was done with the French Health Institute, INSERM, recognizing the likely origin of names in researchers who publish in Thomson Reuters in the field of cancer research. And what we found is that some countries are incredibly diverse and attract scientists from all over the world, and some other countries are extremely concentrated on their own people. It can also be useful to look at how scientists, diasporas of scientists, are spread in a single country like Canada. What you can see, for example, is that the Moroccan diaspora, what Morocco calls Marocains résidant à l'étranger, are more likely to be found in Montreal or Ottawa, whereas, for example, the Indian or the Chinese diaspora are more likely to be found in other universities like British Columbia or McMaster University. And we often hear all the bad stories about immigration, and less often we hear about the benefits of migration for innovation, for research, for the economy of countries. The ITIF, a think tank in Washington, has conducted a survey of the demographics of innovation in the United States, using NAMSOR to recognize the likely origin of names in patent databases. And what they've shown is the benefit of immigration for innovation. Some cities have an obligation now to assess the patterns of segregation. How concentrated are diasporas in different districts? And what does it mean also in terms of access to public services? So, for example, the New York Times has published interactive maps of different cities, like this one, showing who lives where in the city of Boston. We've used NAMSOR with the city of Boston to produce maps that had finer-grained representation of the different communities living within the city. And we could also compare what the approach of recognizing the origin of name gives as a heat map compared to what the American Community Survey would give. And we found that although recognizing names like Irish or English or African American can be a challenge, we've been able to produce very accurate maps of the different communities within the city of Boston. Hispanic, African American, or Italian. And let's go back to New York. New York is an even more segregated city when we look at this map produced from the census. And this is what comes out of NAMSOR, looking at a different database, the real estate open data database called NYC-ACRIS. And what we found is that, for example, different zip codes have higher proportions of being owned by Irish or Jewish or African American, Italian, Hispanic, Chinese, Ukrainian and Russian, Indian or Polish. It's as if the whole world owned a little bit of New York. Now, using Namzor is fairly easy. All you need to do is get an API key, and we have specific licensing for academic and research. Then there's a website where you can upload data and get the results. Or we also have an integration with an open source tool called RapidMiner. That's one of the leading open source tools for data mining and predictive analytics. So, for example, in RapidMiner, once you have access, you can read any CSV file or database, or even Twitter or LinkedIn or different social networks, and then you can parse names to recognize the first name part, the last name part, or its structure, recognize the likely origin, infer the gender, and then write to an output file or do additional statistics and analytics. So as a short demo, we'll process this database, REPEC. REPEC is the leading database for economic research. So we can browse all the names of the authors here and see who they worked with, who do they cite, what do they publish about. So it's quite interesting to think also of the potential of these economists for economic development of their home country. What we're going to do is we're going to upload the Excel file with all the names, and then we are going to recognize their likely country of origin. So it will take about a minute to upload and a minute to process the data. Then once the data is processed, we can just download it and open it, for example, in Excel. The software actually combines the first name and the last name together in order to determine the likely country of origin, and it also gives different scores in order to filter the data according to the confidence level.
Hello again. So I managed to travel in a snap from Versailles to Paris, and we are here in a very diverse area, about 5 minutes away from Montmartre and the Sacré-Cœur, which attract people from all over the world, tourism. But also here, this area has mostly people from Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan French-speaking Africa. My point here is that we should travel in data, the way we travel in a city, and look at the different districts. Who is here? Where do they come from? What do they do? I believe it's extremely useful in today's world because we might discover also the importance of the host country culture and the home country culture, how that affects the ability of people to actually contribute to the economic and scientific development of the host country and of their home country, how they can give back to the home country when the economic situation is difficult, but also how they can better integrate into the host country, find a job, raise their children in and contribute to their home country and the host country's culture. And of course, let's remember that today's migrants and refugees are tomorrow's diasporas. I wish I could be with you in UCLA in a snap. Apologies again that I cannot be face-to-face meeting you. Of course, I would love that, and it would be an honor to meet such incredibly competent scholars. But I hope we can travel together through data and interact through the social networks in the near future. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Thank you again. I look forward to your question.